Good, beautiful morning. Today we are talking about geo-arbitrage, how to use travel to make your money worth more. Let's do it. So let's break it down. Geo is geography, geo is travel. That one's quite easy. Arbitrage is taking advantage of the difference in prices between different markets. So quite simply, this is taking your pounds, if you're British, or your US dollars, your Canadian dollars, etc., and spending them in places where they are worth a lot more. If you've ever had that feeling of being on vacation and thinking, oh wow, this apartment we're staying in is really cheap, but it's really good, or oh wow, this meal we're eating tastes really great, it's really good quality, but it's really cheap, you're experiencing geo-arbitrage. What we're talking about is taking that feeling that you get from a week or a couple of weeks on vacation and turning it into a lifestyle, turning it into a way of life. When we talk in these terms, we're always talking in terms of relative price, relative to where we're from. So geo-arbitrage, as far as I'm aware, is a term coined by Tim Ferriss in his now famous book, The 4-Hour Workweek, which, if you haven't read, I seriously encourage you to do so. Tim Ferriss defines geo-arbitrage as changing where you live and work in order to take advantage of different prices for the same assets in different markets. In other words, if the amount of money you're making remains the same, but you're spending less money on the things that you need, rent, food, transport, these kind of things, then you are engaging in geo-arbitrage. So what kind of places might you want to consider for geo-arbitrage? Well, let's get started. There are a lot in Asia. In Asia, you might be thinking about the Philippines, you might be thinking about Thailand, you might be thinking about Vietnam, Bali, or Indonesia. How about over in Europe? Well, in Europe, you have places like Romania, Estonia, Georgia. A lot of the former Soviet Union is incredibly cheap if you are coming from the US dollar and the British pound, for instance. How about South America? Well, I know that Colombia is very popular these days for geo-arbitrage and digital nomads. How about Africa? Well, I know that Cape Town is very popular for people living location-independent lifestyles. All of these places, compared to living in the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, for instance, you will find the cost of living to be very cheap. So if geo-arbitrage does so far sound like something you would be interested in, then that's great. It's something I talk about regularly on this channel. Low Drag Lifestyle is about lifestyle design, minimalist travel, and the philosophy at the foundation of it all. If that sounds good, then hit the like button and get subscribed. I come out with brand new videos every single week. Okay, let's get on with it. So how do you make geo-arbitrage work? Well, the first thing to do is to establish a location-independent income. And there are a couple of ways to do this. The first one is to establish passive income. If you're lucky and you've built up some property back home, a property portfolio that you can rent out, well, earning money from rental properties is absolutely passive income. The other way to do this is through maybe retirement funds, if you're lucky enough to have a good retirement and have a good pension. And another way that I hear about a lot of people establishing a geo-arbitrage lifestyle is through dividend income, dividend investments. So you invest in certain stocks which pay you out a good, healthy dividend. And if you have enough investments, you can live off of this. But if you are younger and you have yet to build up a massive portfolio of investment properties or a huge stock market investment, then maybe you want to look into some more active forms of income. So from what I see and what I hear, the two most common ways to establish location independent income in a more active way are freelancing online and working as a remote employee. If you are lucky enough to have a remote job already, then great. What are you waiting for? You can take it anywhere in the world. However, if you think you have a job which can potentially be done remotely, then there are a lot of videos and a lot of resources on how to work that into a location independent job. Maybe the most practical and the easiest way to get into geo-arbitrage and to get into location-independent income is freelancing online. There are so many jobs that you can do online as a freelancer, and again, maybe that's something I'll do a full video on. Personally, the way that I freelance online right now is as an English teacher and specifically a business English coach as well. So what things are you going to be able to reduce the cost of through geo-arbitrage? Well, almost everything, but let's start with cost of living. Rent is a big one. Back in the UK, I know rent prices can be very high. I know the same is in the US, Canada. This can be a big problem. You need to earn enough money for rent. Well, if your rent is only a couple of $100 US a month, maybe $300 or $400 US to get a really nice place, well, you can earn a lot less money and still be able to afford a nice place to live. What about transportation? Well, a lot of people who live location independent lifestyles don't have a car. A car is one of the most expensive things that you can own. I know, I've owned a car. If you're living a location independent lifestyle, that means you don't need to live close to a specific office. You can live close to the beach. You can live close to where you want to be, which means that you may not need as much transport, especially if you are working from either your home, your apartment, or a co-working space that's nearby. And food. Food can be really expensive and really cheap depending on where you are in the world. Currently, I live in South Korea, where food is really expensive. But moving to a different country may mean that you get to eat your meals for a lot less money. So in short, geo-arbitrage can mean that you save money in pretty much every area of your life. Keep in mind that you don't actually need to move to a different country in order to engage in geo-arbitrage. If you're in the US thinking about moving to a different state with lower income taxes, or indeed no state income taxes, might be an option. If you're in the UK, well, get out of London in short. If you're living in London, your cost of living, your rent, your cost of food is going to be likely a lot higher than if you live pretty much anywhere else in the country. Go to the north, it's where I'm from. So is geo-arbitrage, is moving to a different place for a better cost of living a rare thing? Is it a weird thing to do? Not really. The very popular online freelancing website Upwork just did a survey and they found that around 22% of the US workforce will be location independent and working remotely by 2025. One thing we've certainly learned from 2020 and 2021, as we're in right now, as I'm recording this, is that a lot of people who didn't think that their jobs could be done remotely can actually do their jobs remotely. Many companies are moving to a more remote workforce model. Twitter, for instance, has said to its workforce, if you don't want to come back into the office, you don't need to. You never need to come back. Just do your job remotely. And I think that's a trend we're going to keep seeing. So that about does it. If geo-arbitrage sounds like something you would be interested in, tell me why in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear about your plans. And if you have any questions, throw them down there. I'd be happy to answer them. If you'd like to hear more about the way I'm doing geo-arbitrage, then you may want to watch my video on my first 500 hours teaching and tutoring English on the website Cambly, and I'll link that here. Thanks.